Hello, everybody. Just gonna take a minute to get a few people in here and then we will get started. All right. Oh, he's here. He's here. Hi, Kalia. I'm so glad you've been able to join. Oh,
Oh, that makeup is on point. I love. Yeah.
I tried and I was like, my mascara. I literally have it here. I was like, it didn't make it. It didn't make it, but it's
Oh,
okay.
it's all right.
When
I 2 second mascara. I got like a hint of highlight in there and some ear ready.
I almost feel like I should just real quick. God, people, you know that face you gotta make when you like putting on your mascara, guys.
Yep.
Um,
But it helps.
okay, hold on. Let me pin our discussion, and we will get started and allow some more people to get in. I'm so happy to see those that are here. And let's see. How are you doing?
I am doing well. It has been a busy weekend. Lots of driving all around, and I just got back from teaching a clinical skills lab at my alma mater, which was really fun. So I left
Oh,
that.
nice.
But to get home here, it's like an hour drive from there. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, but good stuff.
Where are you at again?
So I'm in New York. My home is
Mhm.
Rochester.
Okay.
I, yeah, primarily do travel therapy with COVID. That's all been different. So I've been working per diem at one of the facilities I used to work at, and then I'm working on a couple textbook chapters and other stuff on the side. So that's what I'm doing.
Mhm.
Buffalo, New York is where I went to school. So that's right.
Yeah. You busy, busy, busy guy. Well, let's get started, and I'm sure more people will join as the time goes on. But okay, so my name is Alondra La OT. I'm so excited to be here with Dev, the Rainbow OT.
Yes.
Um, my preferred pronouns, she, her, hers. Identify as cisgender heterosexual. Hmm?
Mm.
And let's introduce you guys to Dev. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So my name is Dev. That is the name I choose to go by. My full name is Devlin. My pronouns are he or they. And my gender identity is non-binary, and I identify as
Mhm.
gay. But uh, we'll talk about. I'll talk about the shifting and fluidity of gender identity for myself. I think at a later time, but that's something
Okay.
still an ongoing journey. So
Yeah. Well, we are here to learn. So
uh,
I am so excited. And I just want a little disclosure for you guys. You know, while I have some general understanding of the topics that we're discussing today, I want to make sure that, you know, it's clear that I'm still very much learning and open to learning and um, ignorant to some of the different things that may be brought up. And so um, please be kind.
yeah,
This is
yeah.
a safe space. You
Hmm.
know, this is no place for judgment. You want that, take it somewhere else. But just please show grace as we talk today, because none of our intentions, I mean, I imagine for you as well, Deb, is not here to offend anyone or, you know, be disrespectful. That's never our intention. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yes, and my own experience is where my expertise comes from, but I don't represent everyone within the community. And there's, of course, plenty of intersectionality that comes with being a member of multiple communities, and I can't represent that either. So I can only,
Mhm.
from my own lived experience.
Oh no, it's free. It froze a little bit.
Is it there? Am I back?
You're back.
Okay. Let me know if that keeps happening. I might have to hop off the Wi Fi because it might be stronger with just my service, but let me know.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So, okay, before we get started, I like to always, kind of start my little interviews, just a little icebreaker. Tres en 30. So, three questions, 30 seconds. You think you
Okay,
got this?
I got this.
Okay. 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 I'm like, where's my timer? Where's my timer? I'm gonna have to use my computer. Okay. Stopwatch. Give it to me. Okay. Okay. First question.
Hmm.
What is your favorite food?
Favorite food, pizza.
Favorite place to travel?
California.
Favorite leisure occupation?
Leisure occupation. Hiking.
9 seconds. 9.86 seconds. Yes. Less than 10 seconds. That's what I'm talking about.
We're ready. I'm a
I know. Okay, so if you guys are not familiar with Dev and the work that he does, I don't know where you've been, but welcome to the party. You are a COTAD member, which is the Coalition of Occupational Therapy Advocates for Diversity,
yeah.
and of course an advocate for the LGBTQIA plus community. And I wanted to start off my first question with why do you feel it's important to advocate from a healthcare provider standpoint? I mean,
So
I think most of us kind of have, we understand this is very important, that the people that we serve are treated with respect, but and get the proper treatment and care that they deserve. But you specifically, part of what you do is advocating,
yeah.
right? And educating healthcare providers, professionals, specifically OT practitioners, so that we can best serve our the varying populations that we serve. So, in your own words, why do you feel this is important?
I think this all kind of started when I was in college, and we had one specific lecture where we were covering LGBT plus topics, and it maybe allotted like a half hour, in one class, and it was towards the end of our graduate program, and I realized that the professor wasn't prepared to talk about it, and I was aware of some of the research that exists, and unfortunately, a healthcare setting for members of the LGBTQI plus community, specifically those that are trans or gender variant, is one of the most dangerous places to actually exist. There's a lot of research that
Mm-hmm.
um, up to 50% or more of trans individuals or LGBT plus individuals experience either forms of macro or microaggression when trying to receive healthcare, whether that be through misgendering or actual intentional, like harmful surgeries in the process of transitioning or just general healthcare. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, and with being an OT and understanding the holistic background of OT, I feel like occupational therapists are well equipped with our interpersonal tools and our understanding of the whole human and how important every fiber of that human is to their engagement in occupations and living a life. I just feel like OT, we're strong advocates to start. It's a part of our OTPF, and I think that
Mm-hmm.
healthcare world, we can start to be the large agents of change for creating a more safe and open space for people of the community or really just any person to receive the quality of healthcare that they deserve to receive as a human being.
Right. And honestly, in my program, and I don't know if any of you guys that are here, I don't remember learning too much or spending much time on um, talking about, this population, this group, and the care and the sensitivity that we need to have around their quality of care. I don't know if any of you guys can relate to that, but our program, I would like to think that our program was amazing. It was great, but I just don't remember talking about it as much in our program. And I think that's a little bit unfortunate, to be honest.
Well, in the research, actually, there's not a lot of OT research yet regarding this population, but nursing and social work and other professions have some research, and they looked
Mhm.
into why that might be. And a lot of the common themes come back with either professors, doctors, whomever, don't feel like they have the information to teach it, or they're not comfortable teaching this on these
Mhm.
topics. That was mostly the same feedback that I got from the professor that was, making an attempt to teach about this, but an article
Mhm.
like from 1999 and not even from the United States. And the language that was used in the article, even with, what I'm sure from her was a well-intentioned attempt, had really
Mhm.
language in it. And
Mhm.
the whole thing, is it's not if you're going to treat a person that um, is a member of this community, it's when. And you don't always know. And I think part of this societal conditioning and, layers of the system itself, we think that we can look at a person and say, oh, well, that person must be X, Y,
Mhm.
or Z in reference to their
Mhm.
gender or identity or sexual orientation. But that's just simply not true. I mean,
Mhm.
especially for my own gender identity and gender fluidity, it's very easy to assume me as a male at birth. And that's not an accurate representation of who I am or the needs I have in healthcare. So part of it, I think, just comes from, and not to in any way fetishize people of the community, but when we talk about sexuality and gender, sex is also included in that, and sex is an
Mhm.
ADL. It's kind of the same
Mhm.
conversation. People aren't comfortable, don't feel equipped to talk about these topics, although they have to be talked about because we're all human. We all
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm reading some of the comments, and a lot of people are saying that it was not a topic or anything that was kind of discussed or included in their academic curriculum, which is really, really unfortunate, because at the end of the day, and you said it already, that occupational therapy by nature is just very holistic in its approach.
Yeah.
And we cannot begin to treat a person without, having an understanding, some understanding of who they are,
Yep.
right? And it's not up to us to kind of push on our implicit biases of what we think and our, societal norms, blah, 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 blah. Because it's just not it's not a way to treat anybody. You know what
Right.
I mean? Like we have to allow our clients to tell us who they are
Right.
and give us permission
Mm.
to create that rapport. And that's part of the work that we do, right? Is using our therapeutic self to help establish rapport so that we can best treat our clients. Because if we don't know who they are, how are we going to motivate them, engage them? How do we earn their trust that we're here to help them? Like, it's just, like, I mean, for me personally, when it comes to just marginalized uh, communities, marginalized populations, marginalized races, people who are discriminated against, um, disproportionately receiving quality care, that just gets so under my skin because it's like we are healthcare professionals. Did we not enter this workforce to help people? So.
Well, and I think like part of it too with academia. I mean, ACOTE. We don't even have time to unpack the ACOTE standards and ridiculous. I'm not going to touch that one. Um, what I've also come across is like just the general view that teaching about these topics is different. That you have to have this whole lecture on LGBT plus topics, which a whole lecture wouldn't even touch it. But it's so to weave this in throughout being a part of the community or having right, doesn't change the case. Like it you can have an easy case study and it can be Sage who had a stroke and
Mhm.
they are presenting with left hemiplegia and they have to put on a binder because that's a part of
Mhm.
their dressing practice.
Right.
I take away from the hemiplegia or the stroke or these typical OT things that we do. I just
Mhm.
also viewed the whole person and what their need is in that occupation. So I think one of the biggest barriers too is just, which is conditioned to us, but viewing, whether it be race, culture, gender identity, sexual orientation, viewing that as different because it's not. It's just an
Mhm.
expansion of who that person.
Right. And I mean, what we do is to help increase participation, function, engagement. And if we're not addressing those needs of that person, then what are we doing?
Right.
You know,
Right.
like You
I
just
do.
can't you can't separate the two. And we don't need, you know, like you said, we don't need to have a huge you know, a course or something, but there is definitely very easy ways to kind of uh, um, add these and bring these topics to light and include it in the curriculum. It
Yeah.
doesn't take a, you know, it doesn't take a whole course to, because like you said, we're not even, we're barely going to scratch the surface with the course. Like we barely going to scratch the surface. But the truth of the matter is, if we are not educated on it, or even have if it's not even presented to us, you know, some of us can be blind to the fact that this may be a reality when they're
Yep.
treating or working with a client.
Yep.
So just even introducing that, um, you know, so that people have an understanding that us future practitioners have an understanding that, you know, oh, that's right, you know, what I may perceive as this may be this, and just break those stereotypes and treat people as a whole, like as they are. Like, what's so hard?
It's simple, but I mean, we both know that there are reasons why it may be difficult to be viewed that way, right?
Yeah,
And that's like,
yeah.
there's all of that muddy crap on top of it. But when you break it, it is simple at the end of the day, because every person that we engage with is simply just a person, and we have to develop an
Mm,
profile, whether they
mm,
are 0 to 99 plus years old. And
mm,
I know Nuria, hi Nuria, mentioned, you know, across the lifespan, but my whole point with this series too is to drive into the fact that my expertise is with the adult and geriatric populations, but
mhm.
there's just as much need, if not more, to address these topics and be educated on these topics when working with youth, with pediatric and adolescent populations.
Yes.
We're going to have, and we are seeing more now as our society opens up in different ways, or there are more support systems that people, children, are beginning to explore their gender identities and
Yep.
or to do that, and they may, you know, experience levels of transitioning or you know, identifying the pronouns that are best for them at a younger age, and we don't do
Mm,
that in pediatrics, you know, and
right.
an important part. A very close friend of mine worked at a behavioral school, which I hate that
Mhm.
term, period,
Yeah.
but uh, the actually multiple of the children that she were working with had behaviors, but these children were misgendered, and they were forced to, you know, wear certain clothes,
Mm,
all of these things that they knew didn't represent who they were. And once that weight was stripped from them, suddenly those behaviors went away.
mhm.
They're not
Right.
people, whenever someone is expressing something, whether it be a behavior or any emotion, they're communicating with all of us that some need isn't met, and
Right.
you know, that falls right into pediatrics too.
Yeah, I agree. Completely agree. And I mean, if anything, I mean, we know the statistics of suicide,
Yep.
and you know, it's pretty high, and especially with the youth and the trauma that can come from all of that, you know, there really needs to be a way to support.
Mm.
And you know, us as healthcare providers, I mean, I almost feel like we should just naturally be asking people when we do evaluations, you know,
Oh, it should be on
tell
our
me a little bit about, you know, what do I identify as? You know,
yeah.
just like just simple questions,
Yep.
and allow them to, you know, so that way there's not this uh like imposed implicit bias on this child or whoever it is that we're working on, because that's trauma as well.
Yep.
When you know, we refuse to use the pronouns that they prefer to go by, the name that they prefer to go by, you know. So
And language is such a tool. I know, like in my program, we took interpersonal skills, and there was a lot of discussion about language, although the, you know, neutrality of language was left out. And this is just a place for learning too. But we can even shift the language away from using the word preferred, right? Because pronoun, if you
mhm,
say my pronouns are preferred, that still gives, it takes away the concreteness of who you are, of what that means.
mhm,
leaves more room for someone to not use it because it's a preference and not a fact. So, even saying my pronouns are instead of my preferred
Preferred pronouns.
my name is, or my chosen name is this instead of my preferred name, because then you take away
It's almost like allowing an option. It's almost
yeah,
like
and
I
and
prefer this, but yeah.
there is no option, and more info to come, but neutral language is actually much easier and statistically less harmful to use. Instead of saying mom and dad, you can say parent, super easy. Instead of saying husband or wife, or assuming that, you can say partner or significant other, spouse. All of that language, you can strip it back, and just by making that simple change, you're automatically allowing for representation of larger communities. You're allowing a more safe and protected space for that person to already express who they are. And if you lead with asking, hi, my name is Dev. I'm your OT for the day. My pronouns are he and they. I don't have to ask them what their pronouns are, but I've already shared mine. I've opened that door for them to share that themselves. And
Right.
that re-traumatization that you're talking about of having the wrong pronouns or name used, we experience that all the time out in society. Like, as soon as I leave the safe space of my house, I'm already opened up to all of that all day, all the time, because people assume male at birth for me. And then we walk into a healthcare environment where we want to feel safe, and we may be talking about intimate needs or needs that are specific to our gender identity and sexual orientation. And I walk in and I go to fill out an intake form, and my options are male or female. And if I'm lucky, it might say other. But how does
Yeah.
other feel? Am I other? I don't think I am other. There should
Yeah.
just be a space for you to write down your identity and how you
Yeah.
identify. Then you, as the person, gather way more information for your intake, and you're not already setting that person up for re-traumatization before they even meet you.
Right.
I know when I go to receive healthcare, fortunately, at least in Rochester, there's Trillium Healthcare, which is LGBT plus friendly. I know in Buffalo, there's healthcare, which is LGBT plus friendly. And I can't tell you how amazing it felt when I got the call for intake and they asked me if I was comfortable to share my pronouns and my gender identity and my sexual right.
Nice.
Three simple questions, right? If it was to fill it in, I felt open to sharing that, and feel more open to sharing like amazing things with them, more personal things, because they've already created a safe space for me just to exist in healthcare, where a lot of times my identity just is left out.
Right. Right. That's great. I'm all like, Julia, come
Yeah,
educate them.
yeah,
Okay. Okay. So last time I did a live, it did not save, and I was so pissed because we ran out of time. So I want to make sure I save some time so we could get into the like your 201 series and talk a little bit more about, we've been talking a little bit about several things
yeah.
that just are naturally part of the 201 series. But I would like you to kind of educate us a little bit more on our role as occupational therapists and supporting ADLs and IADLs. But we could start with like ADLs.
Sure. So just to do a quick tie-in, the whole 201 series, I, originally built it to be like we're taking a college course, although, not necessarily any more difficult, the information that goes on. But we had to start with identifying what some of I don't want to use common, but the more known identities are. So that's what that 101 series was, just breaking down what the terms are. Although there's,
Do you think we should break it down?
yeah, I mean, we definitely can. If you want more info, I'll do just a quick run through, but you can
Yeah,
always
we'll do a quick run through because you have it posted on your page and it's great.
color and glory. So LGBTQIA plus, I'll start there, but obviously the plus is more expansive to
Mhm.
all the identities that exist within the community. So there's L for lesbian, that is someone who identifies as a female or a woman, and they are attracted to someone who also identifies as a female or a woman, whether that be spiritually, romantically. That in itself is a spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
A is a term that could be used to represent it could be used in replacement of LGBTQIA plus to represent the whole community, though not everyone may use it that way. It also can represent someone who identifies as male, having an attraction in any form to someone else who identifies as male or of the same gender or sex, depending on how they identify that. Um, T is referring to a gender identity that would be transgender. So that is someone whose gender identity differs from that of which is assumed at birth. So I've said assumed male at birth. There's also assumed female at birth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what, you know, you're unfortunately tagged as when you pop out, and that may or may not be representative of what your gender identity actually is. LGB, I missed bi. So B is for bisexual. That is this one definitely can get a little bit more tricky, especially if we're talking about pansexualism as well. But it's
Yeah.
who is attracted to more or one gender. Q stands for queer. This term is also a little tricky. It has a historically derogatory use and use for the community. Not everyone will accept that term as a representative term. So again, it's the whole theme is it's a case-by-case basis. It's everyone's individual, right? But this language kind of creates a foundation for you. So queer can represent someone who is just within the community. They may or may not have another specific gender identity or sexual orientation, and it can encompass LGBTQIA plus as well.
Mm-hmm.
I stands for intersex, which is a frequently misunderstood community. That is someone who may be born with anatomy that may represent more than one sex. Oftentimes, that isn't discovered until some sort of surgery happens or during an autopsy after death. Unfortunately, there are a lot of practices where if someone is born intersex and it's obvious that the parents will choose whichever sex they feel is most appropriate for the child, and that in itself is already extremely harmful. And A stands for asexual. So these are people that it's a spectrum. You may hear like the ace community or ace spectrum, and this represents those who may not have sexual attraction to any other gender, but it doesn't mean that they don't or can't have romantic or spiritual connection to other genders. It mostly refers to the engagement in sex itself, but that in itself is also a spectrum. And then the plus is to encompass everything else that exists. For those who are with Native or Indigenous populations, there's a term called Two-Spirit, which is mostly relatable to non-binary. I'm not most educated on that, so I'm not going to speak much on that one. But you can really, that term is specific to a culture, so you can only use that term if you exist within that culture too.
That's a new one for me. I haven't heard that one.
Yeah. There's the LGBTQ physical therapist. She's amazing. She has covered that in her Terminology Tuesdays, so you can head over to her page and check that out. She's doing awesome work for the PT profession, similar to what I'm doing.
And one thing I want to just kind of clarify, and you can probably help clarify this as well, is that gender is not the same as sexuality.
Yes.
Preference. Like, they're not. So just because someone is identifies as, let's say, I can't even give an example right now. But just because, you know, you identify with this gender does not mean you're automatically attracted to this XYZ. Like, gender and sexuality are they're separate.
Yeah, so we can actually break that down with a third term too, and that's, so there's sexual orientation or sexual identity, there is gender identity, and there's also gender expression, and all three are not mutually exclusive. They don't have to exist within each other. So someone could be cisgender and straight, but their gender expression could be masculine or feminine or anything in between, and that doesn't mean that they exist within different parts of the community. Trans individual could be, that's referring to their gender. So if it was someone who transitioned from male to female and they are attracted to men or in a partnership with a man, that's still heterosexual because that's
Right.
referring to the sexual orientation, not to their gender identity itself. So
Right. Right.
uh, that's a very good point to make, that just the sexual orientation, the gender identity, and the expression of gender could all be very different.
Right. Right. Good. 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 Okay. So now let's get into our role.
Yeah.
And after we kind of gave a little, breakdown, let's get into our role. Sorry, I have the window open. Is it loud?
No, all good for me. I don't hear anything.
Okay. um, to explain our role as OTs supporting ADLs and IADLs.
Yeah. So the whole point in covering that terminology is to develop an understanding. But really, my goal with this is to build up this foundation, to build a house, and then to knock it all down. So a lot of times in school, we're taught that, Nuria just shared a great resource in there. So definitely anyone can go back and refer to that, to the tool that's called the Gender Unicorn. So we're taught that occupations have a gender, right? That like women are going to apply makeup and men are going to play golf and all of these like really dumb, rigid things. But the whole point of it is no occupation has any gender, which I have. Some people get very heated or disagree with that topic, but it's super easy to strip back because gender is a construct. It's something we've created. So I, as someone who's assumed male at birth, if I'm walking down the street, I wear makeup, I wear dangly earrings, I've got some 4-inch heels. I do those things. That's what feels good to me. I'm engaging in occupations that don't align with the gender that's me.
Yeah.
So you may have a client, or applying nail polish, all of these things that we think are super gender, they're just not. So the whole point of the series is to knock down that construct and to knock down this house that we've built of this gender binary that only certain people can engage in certain occupations. That's where a lot of like really big harm comes from in healthcare. In us, we're putting people into this box and into boxes that they don't fit in, and it's just silly in general. So we, as occupational therapists, we can't go in with these expectations or for a societal norm or with implicit bias because our questions or how we view someone may limit our understanding of what occupations they engage in and what occupations they're deprived of and what occupations we need to help adapt and compensate for so that they can continue to engage in them.
Right.
So that's what this is all about. Simple ADLs to talk about would be dressing and grooming and toileting. Access to even toileting itself toileting isn't a gendered task. Has nothing to do with your gender, but the access to it in our society does. And if we're going to talk about ADLs, shopping, or just community access in general, those aren't gendered either. And what we, unfortunately, that binary is perpetuated by society, and it does limit some people's ability to access a bathroom in the community or to access a changing room or to access certain stores because unfortunately, that expectation of the binary still exists. So we as occupational are every tool to empower the client and to advocate for them to knock down these barriers that prevent them from engaging in the occupations that are meaningful to them. I know we talk about that all the time in OT, but that's a real thing.
Right. And I mean, advocating, that's part of what we do as OTs. And so, I mean, being aware, mindful, and knowing when to advocate for the people that you're working with, your clients, is extremely important. And, I'm actually I'm in California and in the Bay Area, so I feel like it's a little more liberal than some areas. But what I'm noticing is more restrooms are not like gender-based. They're just a restroom. And it has, anybody can use it. And I'm like, yes, finally, I don't have to wait in the line for women's restroom just to pee when the men's restroom has no line. Like, it's just a matter of accessibility.
Yep.
And why do we need to separate that? Is it because the guy bathrooms have the standing stalls?
You
Take
know,
them out.
it's not needed. Like that goes so far back, it's stupid. Anyone,
Yeah, take them out, and can we all just use a toilet like we do at home?
yeah, a receptacle. Like it's not that deep. We can dive into like fragile and toxic masculinity and where that all comes from. But like at the end of the day, it's literally just extinguishing waste from your body. It doesn't really matter
Yeah,
in what receptacle that goes into, and in having bathrooms as just a bathroom, you
yeah,
are actively reducing the trans community and non-binary community, anyone who really identifies as gender variant. Bathrooms are really harmful to health, and especially when they are stuck with a gender, that transgender individuals are more likely to experience urinary tract infections and kidney infections and bladder infections and all of these things just because there isn't access to a bathroom that they can use or a bathroom that is safe for them to use as
right,
well.
right. I'm like, this is a basic necessity, people.
Yeah,
ADLs.
yeah. Like
I
it,
mean, and even it's unfortunate because some are also exposed to violence. You
yes.
know, and just going to the bathroom
Or
and
walk.
watching people. Yeah, like why? So yeah, I'm glad that we kind of touched on that, and I think as OTs, that's just kind of one of the things that we can um, expand on, especially in there's I forget what it's called, but the OTs that kind of go in and do space evaluations and things of that nature and accessibility and all of that. Like those are things that we could bring up as well,
Yeah,
Um,
like even at AOTA, not I'm going to go there. Like we as in the network. I'm also, if you're not familiar with the network, there's the network for LGBTQIA plus occupational therapists. It's
mhm,
global. Um, the network had to advocate for the bathrooms at AOTA to be gender neutral as well. That thought didn't occur to the planning team, and so I
mhm,
who identifies as non-binary gender variant. We're in a place where we're supposed to be learning and making connections and talking about this wonderful profession of OT. You're already experiencing trauma just from existing in a
yeah,
space that wasn't made for everyone already. We talk about accessibility, yet we didn't make it accessible for everyone, and that
right,
should come the conference. So it's really just simple to better. And Nuria also brought up, which is huge, is social participation in the community,
right,
as an IADL, and just social participation in general. These are all things that um, have barriers. From society creates barriers for people to just simply engage in that. Maybe cisgender and or heterosexual people don't have to
mhm,
even think twice about.
right, right. Yep. I'm all like, yes, yes, yes. Someone said, uh, Nuria, I
Yes.
hope I'm saying that right. Like even for, children at school,
Yep.
going to the bathroom, and you already touched on social participation, but um, yeah, I mean, I don't know what we can do to just kind of break that way of thinking in society, um, to where we can just provide safe spaces for people to complete their basic necessities.
Well,
Um,
the change starts
and
right, and it starts with, it's I'm like so thankful to be here today, and hopefully people will walk away, people who aren't members of the community, that y'all need to have these conversations too. Like these conversations have to come from people who are cisgender and heterosexual in the workplace. And um, even if you don't currently have a client that's a member of the community, like this is a conversation you can have with your director or with the school, and educate them on why it's important to change the atmosphere around toileting in bathrooms. And you can have these conversations with your family members that use harmful terminology, and we
Mhm.
and we have to go there because
Yep.
it's intersectional, and everyone has to have these conversations. White people need to have conversations about racism and anti-racism practice, and white privilege, and all of these things that we need to talk about, and police brutality, just as much as those who are heterosexual and cisgender need to have conversations about these things. This is where change comes from. It's not going to come from people like myself in the community shouting from the rooftops, because there's already barriers to people listening to me. This has to come from everyone having these conversations in every environment that they exist in. It requires radical change, and it's not comfortable. Sit with the discomfort and move on from it. Grow.
I, I'm like, we need to get over that discomfortness. Like, if we're really trying to grow, we need to get over ourselves.
Yeah,
Seriously,
for
it's
real.
not that serious. It's
It,
really about just advocating for what is right
yeah,
at the end of the day.
for humanity, for each human to be able to just exist as the beautiful person they are safely in whatever environment that is. And
Yeah.
right now, the reality is not safe. I am privileged even in my own expression of identity, that I am very fluid, and some days I can go out, even wearing this, and people are going to assume male at birth, and I'm automatically more safe. But as soon as I put on eye makeup, and as soon as I put on those heels, I get catcalls, I get things thrown at me out of the car. I'm not safe just walking down the street, and I'm white. When we add layers to this for
Mhm.
Black trans people, like, it's
Oh,
not safe to even walk outside. It happened
yeah.
long ago here in Rochester, which is a liberal place, that a Black trans person was attacked on the street while just
Mhm.
walking.
Yep.
Why can't I just walk? Why can't they just walk?
Yeah.
And
We hear
that's,
about this all the time.
yeah,
People getting murdered, uh, beaten. It's just, it's unnerving
yeah,
and
we
breaks my heart. And yeah, there's work to do.
don't start from the same starting point in this race of life. Some of us
Mhm.
start way back, and some of us start 50 feet back with weights on our ankles. And we need to make sure that we are doing the work. We're checking whatever privilege we have, whether it's racial privilege or gender or sexual privilege, and that we're
Mhm.
doing work too, and having these conversations, because the burden can't be placed on members of the
No.
community itself. We need to amplify them and empower them, when also have these conversations ourselves, because there is a whole different meaning when you go and you talk about how we need to rip that gender sign off the bathroom than there is with when I have that conversation.
Right. Right. And yes, Dr. Johnson, she said, if you're not uncomfortable, you're not doing the work.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. I mean, you can only play or act dumb.
Mm-hmm.
You can no longer call yourself ignorant if you are aware
Yep.
of what is going on. That is now intentional.
Yep.
That's just it's no longer ignorance. That's just now intentional.
Yep.
Intentional harm, possibly.
Right.
Not speaking up for marginalized communities and um, uh, individuals who consistently lack, I mean, huge health disparities
Yep.
in the quality of their care, and it should not be that way.
Yep.
It should not come from healthcare workers. Like
Right.
it really shouldn't. If anything, we are the ones who should really kind of set the tone, the pace as to how we begin to address some of these things. Because I mean, if we're not here to help, then what are we here for?
Right. And healthcare, every human has or should have the right to access healthcare. And
Yeah.
so people, no matter what community they walk in, they're going to walk through your doors one day. And
Mhm.
we have the ability now. We've had the ability for years, but we have the ability, especially now, to start make that change. So when they walk through that doors, it's a safe and secure place where they can receive the same services as any other human that walks through that door. And it is simple. It's not. There may be discomfort along the way, but you're doing the right thing if you're experiencing that discomfort, because we have to break this norm. There shouldn't be a norm around gender or around race or culture, because we as humans are dynamic and ever changing and multi-layered, and norms don't provide a space for those things to be expressed at all. So
Right. And I always feel like, oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought because I got so engulfed in what you were saying. I was like, yes, yeah, it happens all the time. I'm like, something comes up and then I get like super focused in on what people are saying. So I can't remember what I was going to
but
say.
also, y'all, like Pride Month, like give it up, like great, like let's celebrate for a month, but celebrate for all 12 months. Please don't
Yes.
rainbow stuff during Pride Month. That's like rainbow marketing, and we're tokenizing the community, and most of the time it doesn't ever come back to helping the community with resources. So that goes for any community. Be aware of what you're buying, who you're buying from, where you're giving money to. Like all of that stuff is a way to be active and breaking this norm throughout the year too. All 12 months, 365. These issues exist throughout June. We should be having these conversations throughout June. So do the work all the time.
And that's what we, most recently with the whole Black Lives Matters movement and things of that nature, same thing, people kind of just, yes, I support, da 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 da. And then as the noise fades away,
Yeah.
so do they. And like
Where
you said,
now?
you're breaking up.
I said, where'd they all go? Where did their black square go at this point?
I
Like,
don't know. Black Square,
where are
Rainbow, where are you? But yeah, like supporting Black-owned businesses, paying attention to what you're putting your money into, and being intentional about, what you're supporting, really. And I know someone said black squares and rainbows don't do much. They don't. I mean, thanks. But, for me personally, actions speak way, 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 way louder than words. And talk is cheap.
Yeah,
So,
that relationship, it's old, honey. Like we see
yeah,
it, we're done with it. It's not anyone anywhere. I'd rather you, like, I see you just as loud when you don't say anything for when you put up a square or a rainbow and,
yeah,
you know, whatever. Like the time to do the work has been now, but especially now, like we're here to do the work.
yeah. And that's what we all should be here to do, really. I mean, we weren't put on this earth to do nothing. We know that. We're occupational therapists.
Yeah, tell them.
Like, we're here to engage. Come on, people. Let's go. Okay, I only have about 10 minutes left with you, but what is next for you? What are some of the things that you're currently working on?
Well, I would say stay super closely tuned. So we have our second Ignite series for COTAD, which is on COTAD Ed and academia. But I think I can share that there's going to be an Ignite 3, and I think that's a really fun to sit down and get your tea to sip on for, because we're going to be doing some great stuff. Stay tuned. There are a couple textbooks that are coming out through AOTA Press that I may or may not be involved in, that may or may not be expanding our knowledge on these topics.
Ooh, I'm scared of you.
Yeah, I'm getting hot.
Scared of you.
So I'm getting through this 201 series slowly but surely. Once I get through that, there's so much more to come after that. So just stick along on the ride. Have your ears open, your heart open, and stop by and ask questions. But I'm not going anywhere. So we're gonna keep.
So you better get ready because my feet are planted.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to run. I'm ready to hit that ground running. I'm so like, I feel like I can relate to you on so many levels because you have been practicing for how long?
2 years.
And same here. So I feel like we're early in the game, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But we're not here to sit around. Like we have things to do.
And like I've been doing this, it's doing it in the realm of OT because that's another a layer of depth to my journey. But I know, like for you too, this didn't just start now, and it's not going to end anytime soon. Like this work is doing the work.
Yeah, and we're in it for the long haul. So you guys better be ready because we coming for you.
Change is happening. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of exciting because I think that, you know, uh, entry level therapists and even students, when people are really early in their career, they kind of tend to, you know, not necessarily go for certain things because they may not feel ready or not prepared enough. But you know what? Just, I mean, honestly, when you have a passion for something, just follow it and just go with it. You know, like when I started, I had no idea where it was going to take me, the connections that were going to be made or anything. I just did it because I felt like there was a need. And I'm sure that's why you do what you do, because you just feel, you see that there's a need,
Yep.
and why not you, if anything? Like, why not you? Why not me? You
Exactly.
know?
I
Um,
hate hearing the, I wish I could do what you do. Honey, you can't. I'm not
you
doing it
can.
special. I'm
Yeah.
doing work,
Mhm.
and obviously this is something that's personal and it's something that I'm passionate about, but there has to be something, like that for you too. Just do it. Nothing's holding you back, most likely besides yourself. So,
It's so true. I mean, I just, I don't have any expectations when it comes to the work that I do. If an opportunity presents itself and I feel like it aligns with what I'm doing, my values, my
yep.
mission, my passion, then I have no problem saying yes. You know what I mean? And I think that's one thing that's one thing I love about myself. I never said that. But that's one thing I love myself about myself is that if I'm to a point in my life that if it does not align with my values, my passion, my mission, what I'm trying to accomplish, boy bye.
Yeah. My good friend Sarah Putt from OT for Life,
Yeah, yeah.
love her. She said something to me that I always hold dearly, and it's when you say yes to something, you're saying
Yeah,
everything else. So it better be a
yeah,
hell, and everything else is going to be a hell no. So
yeah.
make sure the lines, not to go far into it, but even with your
Mhm.
interaction with social media, like make sure if
Yeah,
you're doing a partnership or anything that um, that aligns with your mission and your morals and who you are, and you can sleep just
exactly.
as yeah, when you say yes to something, you're saying no. You can only give so much, so you're going to be saying no to other opportunities. So make sure whatever you're
Yeah,
doing, yes.
yeah. And it's so much easier to really just know in your heart when it's a yes and it's a hell no, when it's a
Mm,
hell yeah and hell yeah, hell no, when
yep.
you have those, when you have your core values in place. So, for you guys, who are still like, man, but I don't know, figure out what your values are, figure out where you are, what's important to you. And man, it just becomes so much easier to say yes or no, and just shut it down, you know?
And the
Um,
work when you love you, when you're
yeah,
any type of way about it, like in a good way, the work isn't, it's not work, it becomes something that it's a passion project. It's something that you want to do. So
exactly, exactly. And that's exactly what this feels like. It's just, it doesn't feel like work. Like I'm not working right now. I'm
mm,
just we're having a conversation. That's it. We're just talking. That's it. Okay. Any final advice for OTAs, students, current
yeah,
practitioners? Any final advice?
start the work. If this is your wake up call, start the work now. Start with those gender neutral language. There's to spit it out quickly because I know we have like 3 minutes. You can go to my page for suggestions. I have
Yeah.
a few podcasts out, one with OT for Life, one with Seniors Flourish, and one with Occupied, all discussing various depth of my expertise with this community. You can check out Sex, Love, and OT, Dr. Tiku from
Mhm.
amazing content. You can check out the Lavender SLP, a speech and language pathologist who is a trans male and has a lot of great content on gender neutral terms to use in healthcare. Just start the change now. It's okay to fail forward,
Yeah.
make a mistake, honor that mistake, and keep learning. You're going to do much less harm if you make that attempt with a person than if you don't make the attempt at all.
Yeah.
And wherever you got to check that bias and privilege, because you got to grow through that and go through it so that we can have a better, more accepting world for every person.
I love it. Screen hug. Ah, ah. I can't wait to meet you in person. It's gonna
Oh,
happen one day.
it's gonna be magical. I can't wait.
Ah. I mean, good thing it's COVID because it makes it kind of tolerable, even though not good thing is COVID. You guys know what I mean. Anyways, but I cannot wait to meet you in person. Thank you so much for taking the time and coming. And I just really appreciate you and the work that you're doing and the education that you're doing for all of us. So
Oh,
yes,
thank
yes,
you
yeah.
for bringing me onto your platform and spreading the love and the magic and the acceptance. And oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to meet you. Give a
Me too. Yes. I'm like magic, magic.
get that proprioceptive input.
Yeah, I'm gonna need that. I'm gonna need that. I've been missing that. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. Stay
Yes.
tuned. I'll have another let's talk about it, interview coming up. And who knows who it's going to be. But thank you so much, Dev. And you guys have a safe weekend. I don't know about where you're at, but I'm extremely hot. So stay cool if it's hot in your area and stay healthy. Okay. All right. Bye, Dev.
Bye.
Love.